welcome to this, I think, which is the third maybe of 21 sort of anniversary festival events we're holding this week. This is on day one. It's 10 years of the Deep Network. How fantastic. So throughout the year, we've put on, as well as this sort of week's virtual festival, we thought we'd just need a bit more than just virtual stuff. We've had 17 sort of physical gatherings in all sorts of shapes and sizes, whether it's conferences, get-togethers, bike rides, outings. So this is a culmination of all those. So we've hopefully tried to sort of get everyone right across the country really involved in celebrating the 10 years of the Deep Network, which is just phenomenal, really.
10 years.
10 years, Monica. Yeah.
Did you start it off?
Not me, no, but my colleagues did.
Yeah.
And now it's made up of about 80 odd groups of peers living with dementia. And Jasper's joined in, and great to see the band. Jasper's one of our film crew who made a film. We're going to share the film very shortly. But welcome to this session, which is essentially what happens in a deep group, is the title today. And yeah, that's a question a lot of people might want to ask. And we made a film recording of, we allegedly called it a typical deep group meeting. Every group's unique, we know that. But I think those of you who know the deep movement will recognize a lot of the values in there, a lot of the fun and the smiles and the serious debate and the hard work and the fun and the food and the welcome and the belonging and all that sort of stuff in a short video we're going to share shortly. And so yeah, a typical deep group, if you want. That was the meeting that was filmed so beautifully last week, and it's a real treat in store just to share the video coming up. But without more ado, let's introduce ourselves. If I go around the screen, I'll start. I'm Damian Murphy. As well as being a Director of Innovations in Dementia, I also help facilitate York Minds and Voices, which is a deep group in York, funnily enough. And alongside me, I've got Monica. You're going to say hello.
Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you all. And I'm always amazed at the brilliance of people who can use these screens and filters and so on modern technology.
That's great, Monica. So thanks, Monica. Welcome. And you haven't got the computer yourself, have you?
No, I've never needed one.
Yeah. So in lockdown, Monica and we managed to pair up with Monica. And so Monica was able to come to our house when Minds and Voices would meet over lockdown, and she would play us out on the piano, which may well happen again today. You never know. So Monica, fantastic to have you with us. Can I go below now? And I've got Eddie.
Hi, everybody.
Want to introduce yourself, Eddie?
I'm part of Minds and Voices, which I'm very thankful of. We'd be lost without it. It's so friendly and happy. So it's nice to be talking to everybody.
Thanks very much, Eddie. And the check's in the post. Great. And we'll hear more from Eddie as over the next hour. So we're here for another hour. So plenty of time on our hands. And I'm also delighted to introduce you. I don't know where you're coming from today, Alan, but I'm delighted to introduce you. Alan, where are you? And say hello who you are.
I'm in Porto today. So I've just moved to Porto in Portugal. So I'm an artist, and I lived in York until very recently. And it's almost 5 years ago when I first started looking for some people living with dementia to help me work on an art project. And by luck, I found Minds and Voices and just kept going back. The project finished about 4 years ago. I kept going back and finding more excuses to do more work with them. So I'm very pleased to be here and very pleased to still be involved with Minds and Voices.
Well done.
Thanks, Alan. And yeah, Alan became a huge friend to Minds and Voices. He just kept turning up, but which was great fun, really. And he completely surprised us with a magnificent piece of work, which we'll talk about in more detail shortly. And it's sort of hanging behind us. We pinned it up in our back room in our house, which is a magnificent banner. Let me just with our hands on. We're up, me and Monica have locked ourselves in the room, look, it's covering the door. But that's our Minds and Voices banner that was brilliantly made and put together by Alan, using the words of people with dementia, but we'll talk about that later on. Yeah, so that's really sort of where we are. People often say, well, what happens in Minds and Voices? And I suppose the question, what happens in a typical deep group is the challenge laid down for today's session. For me, I suppose it's really hard to capture the magic of Minds and Voices, and I often call it the magic of Minds and Voices.
If I make an exit, it's to the loo.
Okay,
Is it
Monica.
upstairs?
It's you can go upstairs or to the end, the back of the kitchen. I'll point you in the right direction.
That's it.
We've also got Nelly the dog here with us, who might. Right. What I'll do is, so to show that magic and to capture that magic. Anyone else need to go there? As my mother used to say, do you want to try? To capture that magic of Minds and Voices, I can talk about it all the time. That's really boring, me droning on. We got a film crew in, and I think one of the cameramen, Jasper's here in the audience today. But so I want to share this film. It's a lovely little film. I think it's really warm. Feel free to make some notes, pop some comments in the chat box during or after. I say it'll be made available publicly anyway, if not already on our website. And obviously this session as well. It is recorded. It's been recorded. This session will be recorded, and we'll tweak it and tidy it up and take out a lot of my waffle and put it out there once the festival's done and dusted. But without more ado, I'm going to queue up the video, the beautiful film. Welcome everyone.
Thank you.
Another Minds and Voices. Only 20 minutes of faffing today. That's quite a record, I think. Well, or less. We're not doing so bad here. We're not doing so bad. Okay, I'm Damian Murphy. I live here in York. And some years ago, a colleague and I decided, since York was supposed to be what they call a dementia-friendly city, that there should be a forum or a platform for people with dementia to get together. So we tried to help facilitate that, and that was about 8 years ago. When we started, there were about 4 or 5 people with dementia that we knew, that we got together, and we just started having conversations and discussions. And when you get people together, they start asking questions and maybe recommending it to other people they know. We had a good relationship with some of the consultants who would refer people newly diagnosed, so we would grow over the time. There used to be about 5 or 6, then it grew to about 8 to 10, now it's about 15. And obviously there's been quite a turnover of people in that time over the 8 years, yeah. Welcome, Alice.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
And Ron and Helen.
Yes. Thank you.
Good to see you again. Welcome, Julia. Good to see you. Eddie and Pat. Trouble. Yeah. Welcome. Good to see you.
Yeah, my name is Eddie Flory. I've had dementia for 7 years, and I've been coming to Minds and Voices for about the same time.
But let's do that after a while.
Minds and Voices to me is a lifeline. I got diagnosed with dementia and basically told, you've got dementia, now scrub. And then I come to Minds and Voices, and it's just a new family. Friendly, we're always laughing and joking with everybody. And we travel around the country to different groups, which, when you see other people who's got the same thing as you, it doesn't worry you at all. You just carry on your life as normal.
And Sue, you joined us when we were all in the lockdown, didn't you?
Quite a long time.
It was all on the internet, wasn't it, when you joined? So why do you still keep coming back?
Why? Because you walk through the door and everybody's laughing, and it's great. And it's a sort of cheers you up, and that sort of thing. I'm so lucky. That's what I feel.
I'm Roland Blackburn. Sue's my wife, and we've been coming to Minds and Voices for about a year and a half since Sue's diagnosis with Alzheimer's.
Made a big difference to me, because when you have this sort of problem, it's very difficult not to sort of think about it all the time. Are you doing something which is going to affect my husband? You know, all sorts of things have cropped up. And then Damian came to talk to me in our own home, saw what a super chap he is, and sort of immediately it's calmed it all down. I feel sort of quite happy about it because there's nothing to sort of alter things or make things worse.
Having come to Minds and Voices, it's clear that one thing that it gives you is much more confidence to speak about what you've got with others, and you're with a peer group who've all got the same situation, and you can compare notes, and even the care partners like myself can compare notes with other people who are in the caring situation. So it's been good for both of us, actually.
What's the message? Maybe we can ask you now, all of you now, what's the message that you want to give to someone who's been diagnosed with dementia recently? What would you say, Paul?
Carry on as normal and enjoy life. Make the most of it, and just keep on going.
Brilliant.
Don't hide it. Get yourself out and go to groups and just live a normal life. I have a friend that he has got dementia and he just won't go out. And this is all wrong. We've got to find people like that and get them out of the back. We do a lot of things, try to make things easier for people with dementia. Like Barnett's in town. It's like a maze. And we've suggested you put signs up saying where different places are. Otherwise, people with dementia, they get lost. And things like that.
Do you need to tell somebody when you're out and about in the shops, that sort of stuff? So that was a really good debate that people had. And some people said no, some people said yes. You know, some people said, well, it should be customer service. They should welcome you and speak to you anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't want any special treatment. No. We want customer service just to be kind to everybody. And then we wouldn't need a dementia-friendly service. Oh, yes, Damian.
When I go and get the pension and all that, I just say to the lady, look, I've got dementia, I'm a bit slow. She just understands it. If you tell them that you've got dementia, you're a bit slow, no problem.
But she has yours already worked out and ready for
Oh,
you,
yes.
doesn't she?
They're the sorts of discussions we had, didn't we, on our Good Life course about what's accessible out in the community, what helps at home, you know, all the messages, if you've got it, flaunt it. As Paul would often say. You know.
I'm Barbara Wildman. And we've been coming, oh gosh, Colin has to.
Colin Wildman, over 3 years.
When we first came, when Colin said, you know, we're going to go, and I said, oh, I don't think I will. He said, we're going to try it. We'll just see what happens. And I'm pleased that he did, because it's been absolutely a really good thing for me. And I'm sure all the other ladies and gentlemen that come in.
We created our strategy, didn't we? That was 2 years ago now.
Yes. Gosh.
And actually, it was actually very easy to create.
Yeah.
Because it was the conversation you'd all been having for like 5 or 6 years by that time. About accessibility, about, hang on a minute, why is it, why don't we get a say in what services are out there?
They believe it has to be complicated, otherwise it's not posh enough, or whatever the word is. I can't think of the word. So if it's not like 50 pages long, it can't possibly be a council strategy. Whereas ours was something like 4 or 5 pages of simplicity.
Yeah. Some people like more company or permanent company.
But you're happy on your own?
Well, that's the way it's worked out at the moment. Yeah. Is that so bad?
No.
You live life as you want it yourself.
Well, that's the way it's worked out.
If there's anybody here says they don't agree with it, hard luck, isn't it?
I find it's quite agreeable.
Yeah.
And then you can always I mean, there's always things you can join if you want company. And that's a matter of choice, isn't it?
Yes. So
And if we were all the same, life wouldn't have much variety, would it?
No. And he's always saying to me, just go, I shall be perfectly all right. And I say, oh yes, and the first night I'm away, you fall over, hit your head on the bed, and we're away, we aren't there at all. Oh, don't be daft, I won't do anything so stupid. Then he goes and does it, but there's me. But it's constantly telling me to go.
Weighing up of risks,
Yeah.
you know, and the risk to be independent against the risk of the worry and all that. These are conversations we have all the time, aren't we? Way up, but they're really important conversations to be listened to by the people who provide services. So.
Yeah, they were a watch, and it's about you work constantly for 5 or 6 days, and it's on sleep patterns.
I was down in Birmingham one day. My daughter was doing this study with me, and she texts me to say, "Why are you in China?" so that watch didn't work.
Should we sort of stand up and hold the banner up completely?
The chap called Alan, he decided he wanted to make a banner. On the banner he's put all what people have said about dementia. And then he asked us to do our hands. And so we all printed our hands out. He took them all away and he cut all the hands out. A lot of us said, how do you want this? And I said, well, I'd like mine with Spitfires on. And it was just all on there. And so he did. It's unbelievable. And we've shown it on, well, it's been all over. It was on the news at one time about the banner.
Oh, wow.
Elaine always used to say, who died last year, Elaine always used to say it changed her life, or gave her back her life. You know, you see people become so much more eloquent, so much more relaxed, because we spoke about today how horrible it is being you anywhere, and so we really work on the welcome. So, you know, when you see people relax and be amongst friends and be chatting amongst themselves over lunch, you know, that's just fantastic, really. So, it's a place of growth for individuals. It's a safe space, but a space for growth as well. What do you think of that?
Oh, I mean, it's great. I think it's good that everybody sees what each of the groups do to get the feeling that we're all one family. And I think it's really good.
Great. That's nice, isn't it? Yeah, that family feel, Eddie, absolutely.
It is, yeah.
A lot of people mention that, don't they, in the group?
I'd have been lost without... My biggest fear was when we got locked down. Everything started shutting down and I started panicking until Zoom came out. And then I was all right after that.
We'd have a quick Zoom, only half an hour on
Yeah,
Monday morning,
yeah,
wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
But everybody's so friendly. It doesn't. I mean, I go to 3 groups, and everything's so friendly. It's unbelievable, because we're all in the same boat. So why worry about it? Just live your life to the full.
Sounds like a decent philosophy, Eddie.
It certainly is.
Thanks.
I always say I've got 2 people looking after me, my good wife and the good Lord. And at 86, what more do I want?
What more do you want, indeed? A little bit of deep.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Eddie. Alan, I think the sun must be shining in Porto there. You're wiping something out your eyes. I saw you quickly pop something in the chat box. What did you want to share?
Well, yeah, I miss the meetings now that I've moved, and I think the film really did capture some of that spirit that's there in Minds and Voices. Everybody seems to feel comfortable speaking their mind and saying what concerns they've got, what good things have happened, bad things have happened. it's a really open, honest place, and just so genuine. I think, yeah. So yes, made me miss it a bit.
Oh, thanks.
We
Alan.
missed you as well, Alan.
Thanks, Eddie.
Yeah, people are always asking after you. Alan, I remember when you did the first art project with us, which was a small art project. We had a little display in the local library, didn't we? Or you put it up there. And I just remember you'd been searching for people to take part in your project for quite a while and going to various groups. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there's quite a few groups around York that offer opportunities for people with dementia to go and meet other people. Lots of them are things like dementia cafes, and I went to there a couple of times and helped out, and I did some origami classes for people. And I tried to get people interested in joining this project that I wanted to do, and I was really struggling. And I came to Minds and Voices, and it was just a different attitude and a different way of approaching things, really. And it was very proactive, and everybody there wanted to be involved, and they wanted to tell others about dementia and what life with dementia was like. And I wasn't getting that from the other groups. And Minds and Voices really were the people who, they didn't want to sit still and be quiet. I mean, it's all in the title, isn't it? It's Minds and Voices. You really wanted to tell people what it was like, and it just grabbed me. And I really wanted to use whatever I could with art to help get those voices out there. So right from that first project, none of the words or even the pictures really have been made by me. They're all words and pictures that have come from the people in Minds and Voices, because I think I can't say anything. I have no experience. So all I want to do is try and put your words, put Minds and Voices out there to help people who've not been to Minds and Voices realise what living with dementia is like, and that it shouldn't be hidden. There shouldn't be the social exclusion that Eddie's spoken about already, and that we heard mentioned in the film. And if I can do that, then I feel like it's a good thing, and plus it's utterly enjoyable for me, I must say, being involved.
That's great, Alan. Thanks. And all the words on the banner behind us, they're stuff you wrote in your little book, little gems that you just picked up, weren't they, over the years visiting us?
Yeah, so I kept coming, kept going to the meetings every month, and really enjoyed the Zooms during lockdown. And I'd write down the phrases that really stuck with me that people said, and I made sure I wrote down who said them, and then eventually had enough to do the banner. So we've got all the sayings, and then I was inspired by the little yellow cards that you have at the Minds and Voices meetings. So the title of the banner is "I Want to Speak, Please," and that's it's almost a motto of Minds and Voices, really. I feel like you've got things to say and you want people to listen, and you want to be listened to. So that was the inspiration behind the banner, really. So I went to everybody at Minds and Voices, and we made paper cutouts of everybody's hand. And I asked them what fabric they'd like to represent their hand, which is why all their hands are in different colours. Because it was like, it's supposed to represent putting their hand up for saying, "I want to speak, please." And then all the words, all the wise words and the phrases that people like Eddie and the others that we saw in the film have bestowed upon me over the last few years.
Brilliant, Alan. Thanks so much. And you did provide a little sort of summary of who chose which fabric and what it meant and what the significance behind all that. So that was absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that that we can share. We'll get that up in the final sort of push out.
And it is through this peer support that you gain strength and knowledge about how you can live your best possible life as you go through this. And I think without it, I would have floundered very early on and been a really miserable sort of soul. And it's taking me to places I'd never been, and I've met people from all sorts of walks of life, and it's been a huge eye-opener. And we just share things and help each other along, and it's absolutely heartwarming, and it's made all the difference to my life. It's been probably one of the best times of my life. You know, I wouldn't really want to change anything now.
So there, we're really open now to the chat room, to people posing questions, firing them away. Please do keep them in. We've got Rachel Nibbers, our great coordinator, Rachel, looking at the chat box. Any questions coming up, feel free to sort of flag them up, and you know, we'll hopefully answer them. Some reflections really on rewatching the Minds and Voices video. I think the word welcome appeared, I don't know, 5 or 6 times very frequently in the first opening few moments of that, and what the filmmakers picked up, and I think that's so important. We mentioned how horrible it is being coming to somewhere for the first time, and you know, that really struck me coming across. When you go into Minds and Voices regularly, we've been doing it 8 years now, you know, maybe you get sort of, whether it's immune to it or you don't see it as much, or it becomes second nature. But it was great to have that objective view of Jasper and his film crew, you know, because what they've captured, you know, was some of the stuff that we hadn't maybe realized. You know, really focused on that warmth and welcome. So we're really delighted with that. Yes, the deep.
I've got a question for you.
There's a question for me, Rachel.
Yeah. So there's a question about how do you recruit new members?
That's a really good question, because when we first started, I happen to know one of the old age psychiatrist consultants, having met her in the playground. All the best things happening in playground and school playgrounds. And when we first started, we knew 2 or 3 people between us, myself and Emily, my colleague, and then we invited people to come along. The consultant referred new people, newly diagnosed, to us, which was fantastic. And then she moved away. She emigrated to Canada. How dare she? And things seemed to dry up. So it was quite slow progress at the start, but just being there. And when you get people together, and this is what I wanted to say as well, is when you get people together, they start talking. And when they start talking, sometimes they ask questions. So then we said, well, let's investigate these questions. Let's bang the drum. Let's knock on the door of the local council to ask, why is this, that, or the other happening, or not happening? And so we got ourselves quite well known locally, and then more and more people come very, very gradually. And so it sort of happens, I think, when you get a reputation and people come, and it is a good place, and people say, yes, I'm coming back again. Barbara, who you saw in the video there, you know, she was very reluctant to come. She hated coming the first time. Her husband said, well, come along and see what it's like. Okay, I'll see what it's like. And at the end of that session, she said, well, I'm not leaving. I'm coming back here. When's the next one? And, you know, and for Barbara, it's just a real highlight of her week, you know, or of her month. And, you know, she really sort of, she's first one there and last one to go. And she's just smiling and giggling, you know, and her needs have changed over time, but she continues to smile and giggle and participate and say how great she is. And she's just so happy, and she engages in conversation with those around. It's just absolutely fantastic, really relaxing for her. And I think when other people see that, they say, yeah, this is a safe space, I'll come back. And then now we're getting more and more referrals through social prescribing. Now social prescribing is a lot more established. We're known in York, and people say, right, we've got, there's this group, there's this Minds and Voices. So we're getting regular inquiries now, you know, maybe one a month or so, but then that builds up the group, and some will stay, some will come and not not stay, that's absolutely fine as well. It's not everyone's cup of tea. But you know, it just gradually builds over time, really. So I'd say have faith in what you're doing. You know, those deep values I think we've spoken about this morning, you know, that's what makes people come and stay and want to come. And that's what gains, I think, the reputation of the group. So becoming more established, people come being more known to the social services, to the mental health teams, the memory services, and social prescribers is really good. And we've got our own reputation. We've done stuff. We've got engaged. As Alan said, you know, it's a group of doers who want to shout and put the hand up, because there's that confidence that's there, that the people can sort of feel that they can sort of speak up and shout and have a say. Whereas, as Elaine said, who named our group, Eddie, didn't she? She said, well, we've all got a mind and we've all got a voice. So that's our name. And we always remember Elaine, who died earlier this year, but she left deep tracks. Eddie.
So Di McCarthy was also saying, how do you publicise the group? But I think you were saying, you know, word of mouth is incredibly powerful. There's another question here from about having care partners in the group as well, and how I know that you've very recently sort of had a population explosion, shall we say, in your group.
We certainly did.
Yeah, we have a lot of care partners as the group grew. You know, I remember one meeting earlier last year, and there was probably the biggest number of people we'd ever had, and a lot of people coming for the first time and brought care partners along with them as well. So people were spread out around the room. Yes, it's a church hall. Somebody mentioned that. So the acoustics aren't the best, and people with dementia were far away from other people with dementia. So we sort of said, let's get this, because people were missing out or not hearing stuff, or there was cross conversation, and so we split the groups, and there was another side room there, and we filled it full of cakes and biscuits and lured the care partners into there, and they would share the same sort of discussions we were having. But it meant then the people with dementia were around the table together, and you know, like we'll be seeing across all deep groups, you know, when people with dementia have that space themselves amongst peers, they become more eloquent, they're freer to say things and not have people speaking for them. And you know, it's a great balance to have. You know, it's always an ongoing thing, but it's a fantastic you know, mix. It's all very enriching, you know, with everybody being there. But we always say, you know, the group is primarily a group for people living with dementia, but care partners are welcome. And care partners, and Roland on the video said, you know, he benefits from meeting with the care partners and just seeing other people with dementia express themselves.
Thank you.
Eddie's got his finger up there.
No, let the lady talk.
No. I was going to ask Pat what she thought about it.
About which part? The separation or the?
Yeah.
The first time I went, I wasn't very happy. It just meant that whatever was discussed in the group, I really never found out from Eddie what was said, which was probably a good thing or a bad thing, whichever you like to look at. But then it settled down a bit. But I found we were consciously looking at the clock all the time, saying, is it 12 o'clock yet to go back for our cup of tea? So I had mixed feelings about it. I think at the time, Damian was right, that we did have the explosion, and people were saying they couldn't hear other people. And I think we tried it once with us being in the room, but we were too noisy. So we were sent out to the other room. So I think it's just the case. I'm not really one for a change anyway. And it takes me a while to get used to having a different go, but everyone to their own. I mean, you do what you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, as you know, as we always say, all of the deep groups are very unique and very different. And it's about what works for you in your own group, really. So there's another question. Do you ever have to turn anyone away? And do you
No. The last thing you want to do is turn anybody away. I mean, we try to look for people who've been newly diagnosed, and we invite them in and we have a talk with them. And do you like it? If you don't like it, then come, if you like it, come again.
That's the course.
And that's the courses we do. We invite people to really diagnose, and we have certain of our members. We talk to them, ask them questions, and they seem to like it, and they come back again.
Mm.
You need to go out and look for them.
So, bearing in mind, my dog is about to bark because there's a driveway. So, bearing in mind that you've never turned anyone away, there's a question about: are there any kind of legal requirements, like ratio of volunteers to members?
Well, I would say no, because everyone comes freely of their own will. We're all equal. It's not a case of caring for people. It's everyone being together. So no, and we haven't overrun the church yet. There's plenty of space. There's always a couple of us at least in terms of getting in to do the teas, and Dawn, who's our helper, and Anna, Eddie's mentioned before, would help us, and so there was myself and Emily so there's always been two of us. I'm like Doctor Who with his changing assistants every couple of years. But yeah, no, it's just a meeting amongst equals who are free to come and go. So absolutely, yeah.
I think there is there's a question here from Claire saying that she works in voluntary services and they have as many volunteers as are needed by the group. But I guess that again, all groups are different, and a lot of groups which are run by organisations maybe do have to satisfy a legal requirement in order to run a group, but your group has a flexibility because everyone kind of just comes along and takes responsibility for themselves, really, don't they?
Well, that's very much how the group is run. They're the values of the group. It's everyone's welcome and everyone looks after each other. It's a peer group. It's peers. So there's no sort of doing to, as it were. It's very much just a meeting of peers. Eddie.
Yep, I go to a group at Clements Hall, and there's about 50 people there, different stages of dementia, and we all do different things. I think the more you get, the more the merrier, quite honest. It's just a new life altogether.
There was a point about the church hall which I pick up on, because as you were talking about the kind of the echoey environment and everything, and I know that there's a couple of people with dementia who say never meet in a church hall, but actually it's the place that you meet is very important in terms of claiming your own identity and your own place, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it was an available space when we first started. It had different size rooms. When we were small, we met in a much smaller room, and we've just only last year or so gone into the church hall because of the space, because of the expansion of the group, which is great. But we can break off. There's a space there for the care partners. So it's a really good community facility, actually. And it's a really welcoming venue. So we've never had a real hang up about meeting in a church hall for our group, basically. Yeah.
Philly makes a point about having visited the group, and actually, and I completely agree with this, you're never sure who is a volunteer and who is a group member and who's the chair and who's doing the chair monitoring and that kind of thing, because everybody comes across as an equal.
Absolutely,
we all just muck in.
Yeah.
So who gets told off when you forget the licorice all sorts?
Trouble.
They know all about you, Damian. They know all about you.
Play a carol. Would anybody like to join in?
I think we'll do that in a couple of minutes, Monica. That'd be fantastic. Monica's just off us to play us out shortly, so that'd be brilliant.
Oh, wonderful. Do you allow service to visit to see firsthand what happens at local groups?
Yeah, we get contacted by a whole range of people, whether it's adult social care, nurses, students, clinical psych. We've got a really good relationship with some of the local universities, and clinical psychology students come and ask to do projects. I'm the contact point, but before they come, I'll say to the group, so-and-so's been in touch, they'd like to come and ask about this. So everything goes through the group before anyone's then invited to the group. I don't say, right, well, so-and-so's coming next week, like it or lump it. It's very much a case of being invited, and absolutely openly, because and the group thrive. I mean, Alan will tell you, thrive on any opportunity to show off, I suppose, in terms of, look, you know, people with dementia can contribute, people with dementia can have a say, you know, and we've been having these conversations for years, you know, and every time, as Eddie says, anytime someone new comes along, you know, you find out yet another different version of somebody's diagnostic journey that, you know, and the inconsistency of the services out there, and how we still need to campaign, or where we need to go, and, you know, the questions that people with dementia themselves are left with, swirling around unanswered, you know, after a diagnosis. And, you know, and Eddie mentioned the course. We've got the Good Life with Dementia course, which York Minds Voices pioneered, you know, and, you know, it was that question, what's the message you want to give to someone with dementia, which you saw on the video. And that was the question I asked when we started, so let's do a course. And we didn't say, what should we put on a course? We asked that question instead. And everyone, within 5 minutes, we had the course content, because it was the sort of conversation we've been having. Eddie?
Yes, we. What happens sometimes when visitors come, in the end, they ask us to go and do a talk at their premises. I mean, like a doctor invited me to talk to his students about dementia. And this is how things have spread with our Minds and Voices.
Yeah, so you get greater links. Healthwatch did a big project with us, didn't they, Eddie, for a year?
Did.
And we, you know, so we heavily contributed to the sort of, it's a document called What's Out There for People with Dementia and Their Care Partners, or something, in York. It's a really comprehensive sort of one-stop shop of what's available, and all the groups and all the sessions. And you know, that was born from the Minds and Voices consultation, and then updated between lots of stakeholders recently, including ourselves. And you know, so, and that means, you know, people can get, you know, that the Minds and Voices contact is in there, so that's another way people get in touch with us. But yeah, the groups contributed to what is out there, you know, because people come to visit, and because people come and ask what's it all about. Social prescribers come along, finding out, you know, because they're all making local connections, and local area coordinators, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, there's huge amounts of it, and there's always there's always interest, there's always something happening. Often people say, well, you know, what do you talk about in a group? If you're going to get a group together, how do you start it? And I think it's just that conversation. Once you get the conversation going, and you've got stuff to tap into with the deep network, with the deep news, the national sort of what's going on across all the groups. And big up for Rachel here, because Rachel's been producing that deep newsletter every month for God knows how long. It's absolutely fantastic. There's loads of taking part opportunities we always share. There's stuff that people can read. You know, so there's all that sort of stuff. So there's loads of stuff we get up to. Billy, I think, has just flagged up the piece of research we did, which was the Dementia Inquirers project that our group got a little grant for. And that was born of a conversation, wasn't it, Eddie, between you and Wendy?
Yes.
Yeah. And you would say, what is it? Yeah, I pity those poor people on their own, because our Pat, she's marvellous, you'd say.
Well, yes. I just couldn't understand how people get on their own. Does anybody go and see the coping all right? It's all right, somebody that's got a wife there that's a carer as well, that look after you, don't you, darling?
Yeah.
And as long as we keep in contact with people that's on their own and with partners.
Absolutely. And then Wendy answered that, yes, she says, but at least nobody moves things when I'm at home.
Yeah.
And that was our research, not to say which was better, but what are the specific needs, so we could flag up to local GPs. So if somebody on their own comes for a diagnosis, then you need to make sure that they're going to get access to the medication and appointments and all that. If somebody in a couple comes, they need to say, right, well, we know you two are going to be fighting like cat and dog possibly, and you know, because dementia sets all these traps. So it's about equipping people to brace themselves for, you know, possible changes in the future as well. One of the big findings of that research in the group from our conversations was that people were afraid, and we'll probably talk about this on Wednesday, but people were afraid of the future when we asked, well, what happens if, you know, maybe your partner died or has to go into hospital? And we found that the people on their own who were on their own, well, coping all right. The people who were in couples had sort of been relying on each other and had not created those external links and stuff. Monica, you live on your own, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yes. I remember you described
it's just the way it worked out.
Yeah, it's fair enough. I remember you saying you were an inveterate picker-upper of leaflets.
Oh yes, can't resist.
So you obviously picked up a Minds and Voices leaflet and rang it because you're here. It's always a mystery how Monica appeared, but there you go, you did, which is a blessing.
I've got a final point from Wayne in Kent, where he talks about the 3 different types of groups that he's familiar with in Kent, which are the local groups, which are kind of like a bit like our understanding of memory cafes, meeting cafes, and then there are peer support groups, but then there are also action groups, so they don't quite work together in the way that you seem to at Minds and Voices.
And the question is?
Well, the question is, I think he's just making a point really about the fact that there are different models of doing this.
Absolutely, Wayne. Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, I know you, Wayne. And yeah, there are different models. People go at different paces. People want to do other things and different things. And, you know, there's certainly that flexibility in the group. There's a lot of people, you know, didn't want to go into the research project that we did. Others were keen to participate. Others will go and give a talk. 2 or 3 will give a talk. Other people won't. That's absolutely fine, you know, but there's, you know, I suppose we've got that element. There's a lot of work, there's a lot of play and a lot of mingling, and it all sort of molds into one. And yeah, it's probably a bit chaotic. We call it faffing about, but we have plenty of faffing time. But I think faffing time is important. You got a witness of the faffing time before with the video and the knock on the door and the barking dog. But yeah, that's all right, I think. I'm conscious of time, and Monica's invited us to. Would you like to play us a little piece on the piano?
Yes, what would you like?
Well, there's a bit of music on there, if you fancy. And I'll bring Monica over to the piano. I'll bring the piano over to Monica. No, I won't bring the piano over to Monica. That's too heavy.
Well done.
Marvellous, Monica.
Okay.
Marvellous. Thank you very much, Monica.